Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Tip Tuesdays with myself, Coach Kayla. If you are new here, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being here. And if you haven't already as well, make sure to click the link above and allow StreamYard to show your name so I can see who it is. And if you're just joining, just say hi. Tell me who it is, who you are, and if you are joining. And today we're going to be talking about carbohydrates, fueling, and hydration. So how has everyone's week been going so far? Something I always talk about, when we're starting a new week is it's a new day, it's a new week, no matter what happened yesterday. Just remember today is a new day and it's a new week. So hope everyone is doing well and having a good start to your week. And hopefully, as well, you are off to a good start with training. I know a lot of people are training for the fall because there's a lot of fall in-person races coming back, a lot of major marathons, which is so awesome. So you might be back to training, which is awesome. Hopefully, you are doing well with that. And I'll talk about as well at the end a little bit about an opportunity if you're struggling with nutrition, you're struggling with your training, and need more support and guidance. I do have an opportunity that might be good for you if you are running a fall marathon this fall. So let's talk about carbohydrates, fueling, and hydration. So carbohydrates are something that a lot of times I think we don't realize the benefit of carbohydrates. Not that we don't know the benefit, but we get caught in the diet mentality. So if any of you are familiar with this book right here, one of the first principles is to reject the diet mentality of intuitive eating. And my approach, I would say, is more of a mindful, intuitive eating approach to nutrition. I don't think as runners we really have to count calories, count macros. I know a lot of people have asked me that. I don't think it's necessary. I think for body composition goals, it totally makes sense. For nutrition, especially for eating plant-based, I think plant-based is a really great way to be able to also eat more intuitively. But anyways, one of the first principle is to reject the diet mentality because it causes us to sometimes not have a healthy relationship with food and also restrict certain foods that we may actually need. So as a runner, if you've came from a kind of place before you got to be a runner, maybe you were tried lots of diets, maybe you've tried a low carbohydrate diet. I have actually tried a low carbohydrate diet. I did try keto before. It did not work for me. Personally, for me, it just I was running as well because there was, I was looking into some research showing like to train your body without carbohydrates, which now I realize is probably not really the smartest thing to do. But there was some very limited research, but it was out there. So tried it, but I had such GI kind of constipation issues that I realized, well, I don't think this is for me. Eventually, of course, as many of you know, if you know about my story, shifted to eating more plant-based, uh, first vegetarian, pescatarian, and then eventually to vegan. So anyways, carbohydrates sometimes are a little bit scary. But when you think about eating plant-based, and maybe if you're new to plant-based, you may not even realize this, but most of the plant-based foods you eat have carbohydrates. The only foods that don't have carbohydrates in them is meat. So when you eliminate meat, really all you're eating mostly from your diet is carbohydrates. And carbohydrates are important for runners because they are our main fuel source. That is what our muscles need. So our muscles need glycogen, and that is the storage where carbohydrates are to feed our muscles. So it's very important that we make sure we get carbohydrates in our foods. And that's why I think one of the reasons why this book even is coming out there and is so popular right now because plant-based foods are carbohydrates. But the thing is what's different from the American Standard Diet because there's also research that says we eat too many carbohydrates, right? We're eating carbohydrates from plants is a much better source of carbohydrates because you're not only getting carbohydrates and fuel for your body, but they're also low calories and nutrient dense. So you're getting all these nutrients to come along with it. And that is where the magic is. That is what's really, really, really great. So there is a difference between the types of carbs. There's simple and there's complex carbs. Simple, you want to eat mostly complex carbohydrates, which are going to be your whole grains. So like whole wheat bread, brown rice. Maybe for gluten, you could do rice, but you could do gluten-free bread, or you might do Ezekiel bread, that kind of stuff. And that's very popular if you kind of want to limit your carbohydrates for your bread. So your breads, you do want to remember they do count more. And this is where I think sometimes we kind of forget, like there's some foods like bananas and bagels, it might count a little bit more than like, so like one bagel isn't one carbohydrate exchange. That is actually 4 carbohydrate exchanges. So how I help people to kind of to figure out how much carbohydrates they need uh in without going over, because some of us do feel afraid, right? We don't want to gain weight, but we want to make sure we're fueling enough for our running and for our training as well. So I do help people by figuring out, how many exchanges of carbohydrates that you need. And it is a little bit of a learning curve, right? Of learning how much carbohydrates is in each. Vegetables and fruits are pretty easy. 1 cup is 1 exchange. So that's pretty easy. And then for simple carbohydrates, you may actually eat some simple carbohydrates, and that's okay. And that's not to say one or the other is good or bad. Of course, we want to eat more complex carbohydrates for the most part because we want to get fiber, we want to get, healthy, we want to get all those nutrients and all of that stuff in our bodies. But we may have, before runs, you do want to make sure that you're not eating anything that's high in fiber. So you may go towards a more simple carbohydrate source. So that is like sugar, like white bread, white rice, those sort of things, crackers, pretzels. And those are not things you might normally eat. But usually, during a 50K run, it's okay to have that cracker, to have those pretzels, because that is what your body needs. And you don't want to load it with too much fiber either while you're running, have that GI distress. So usually before that is why I recommend as well. Fruit works really well on a whole food plant-based diet. And that gives you that, simple sugar carbohydrates. But you're not also feeding your body crap. You're not going to feel horrible, that sort of thing. And fruit has other nutrients and benefits in it as well. And the amount of carbohydrates, I get asked this a lot. So even though I don't have my clients follow macros, I do calculate, when I calculate their exchanges, I do figure out, based on kind of the macro balance, what that is. So I usually recommend between 50 and 65% of carbohydrate total, your total intake coming from carbohydrates. So as I said, most of the foods that you eat are going to have some carbohydrates, like even though I do count plant-based proteins as in legumes and beans as protein, they do have some carbohydrates in them. But mostly your foods are going to be your starchy vegetables, your grains, and your non-starchy vegetables are going to be mostly considered to make up the carbohydrates. And then I kind of mentioned before, right, is usually simple carbohydrates. You don't want to eat, fruit is fine, 15 to 20 minutes. If you do have anything more than that, if you do have a bowl of oatmeal or something like that, you might want to wait an hour to 2 hours before you go on a run. During, you do want to have as well, like I mentioned, more simple carbs. You could do crackers, you could do dates, pretzels, those kind of things. You can take gels. I do recommend just taking gels for half marathon or full marathon since they're not long. Any distance over that, like getting to the ultra distances, gels could get definitely too much to could be also just too much sugar and make you sick. So you might want something that's, more salty, maybe, pickles, maybe something a little bit different. Than taking those gels. And then after, you also want to place the carbohydrates that your body has burned up or that's used up after runs. So after runs, it's important to take protein, but also carbohydrates as well. And that ratio is about 4 to 1. So 4 grams of carbohydrates for every 1 gram of protein. So that kind of gives you an idea that even though we sometimes think we need more protein after, which we do, we still need to get those carbohydrates in as well. So I wanted to talk about that, carbohydrates and fueling. Hydration, I know I had some questions as well about hydration. So, and this month we've been doing a hydration challenge. So, and it's been hot. I know a lot of people have been really struggling with the heat because it's been so warm this summer. And just another reminder, make sure you are drinking enough, all the time. Drink as much, as you can. Whether that's using a reusable water bottle is probably the best way. If you don't really like water, you can always put stuff in your water like lemons, you know, cucumbers, something to kind of mix it up. Drinking from a straw has always really helped me to drink more water. So there's all these, all these tips that I know we've been sharing, that Wendy's been sharing in the group to really help you to drink more water. So I hope it's helped. I hope this challenge has helped you be more aware as well of being mindful of the water that you're drinking, because it's good to make sure you're hydrated, but also make sure you're drinking your electrolytes. I can't stress how important that is. And also salt pills. Salt pills, since I started taking salt pills, it's helped me so much, or I probably would not have gotten through some of my long runs. So also make sure to drink your electrolytes, but also take those salt pills before your runs and even during, if you're going on long, hot runs. Soon. So making sure you do that as well. And then I think what else I wanted to talk about with hydration as well is how much. So a good test to do once in a while is weigh yourself before and after and see how much weight you've lost. When you do that, you can figure out how much fluid you've lost by the pounds that you've lost. So it's about 16 to 20 ounces of water that you've lost per pound. So based on that, that's how much you want to take in after your runs. But you also want to make sure, or what ideally you want to do is drink enough during, so you actually don't lose any weight after your run. So that's another tip as well. I wanted to just throw that out there too, since we're focusing on hydration. And hi, Joyce. Welcome. Glad you're here. If you're just joining me, say hi, say hey. I want to know that you're joining me. And if you have any questions, post them below as well. I can answer any of your questions as well. Today, we're talking about carbohydrates, fueling, and hydration. So you guys have any questions about any of those, let me know. And so, yeah, to just kind of summarize all that, carbohydrates are your main fuel source for your body. So for your brain to think, and also for running, it is your main fuel source. So make sure you eat enough carbohydrates. There is a difference between the types of carbohydrates. You do want to eat more complex, but simple is good before and during your runs. The amount of carbohydrates is ideally you want to eat between 50 to 65% of your total intake should be coming from carbohydrates. And foods that you want to focus on, or foods that you're going to be your main sources of carbohydrates, will be starchy vegetables, grains, and non-starchy vegetables. And then I talked a little bit about as well what you should be doing before, during, after, when it also comes to carbohydrates. So you should be eating carbohydrates before, during, and after. So carbohydrates are not something we should fear. We should love carbohydrates. And I know many people out there tell me that they love carbohydrates, but they feel like they can't eat as much as they do. And that's what I think the great benefit is of being a runner, but also being plant-based, is we can eat carbohydrates, and we should be eating carbohydrates. So other than that, do I have any questions at all about carbohydrates or hydration, since we're doing a hydration challenge this month in the group. Any questions? All right. Hi. Thanks for joining. Glad you're here. Awesome. All right, cool. Announcement. So we have 1.5 weeks. I think this is yes, 2 more weeks about on the hydration challenge. So we'll be doing, finishing up the hydration challenge. And then as well, I am enrolling for the Run on Plants program. And it is a 90-day program. So it's going to be for 3 months. This is really designed for those that are running a fall marathon. And I did get requests on designing a program like this. So you guys asked for it and I brought it here. So hopefully you guys take me up on that offer of joining this program. And we're gonna really talk a lot about everything you really need to know about getting you to that start line and feeling confident in your food choices, feeling confident in your hydration plan. We're going to talk about, we'll talk about race day fueling. We're going to talk about everything you need to know, with starting with the training, starting with establishing even just healthy habits or, habits that are going to keep you from getting an injury, all the way to, what should I be doing on race day, a couple of weeks before race day? What should I be doing with my nutrition training, all of that. So we're going to be talking about a lot of things. I'll be going through talking about all about macronutrients. We'll have a lesson on micronutrients. We'll talk about meal planning, how to meet all these things, how to do this as well without counting calories, without counting macros. I'll teach you guys, a simple method of how I've taught my clients that I worked with over the past couple of years about how to do that efficiently, simple, makes it really easy for you guys. And you're going to feel really confident in going into these marathons. And you're going to do awesome because a lot of you too, I know, are running New York City and Boston, which is awesome, which is a great opportunity. So you should be very proud of that. And I don't want you to feel like, oh my gosh, it's coming up so soon and I'm just not ready. This is your time. This is your opportunity to have support, have more guidance, and know exactly what you need to do and stay on track. So you get there. So you get there healthy. So you get there confidently to be able to run those races because you got in. Now you just, you got to get ready to do your best. So, and then what a great thing is, I think, about being plant-based is that you have an advantage. So remember that if you are running New York City and Boston, and if you're not plant-based yet, you may consider wanting to go plant-based because it may improve your recovery. And that's going to be very, very important if you are running 2 races in October and in November. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well. Somebody asked, you mentioned eating carbs during long runs. What foods do you recommend during? Yeah, so it depends on how long. But if you're training for a marathon, probably just gels are probably good, or you could use dates. Gels you should be using every 45 minutes to an hour. If you're training for a longer distance, so like a 50K or an ultra, more like the ultra distances, then you probably do want to experiment more with food. So some foods that you could do would be crackers, pretzels, I mentioned dates, mashed potatoes, bean roll-ups, things like that are kind of easy to carry. I do have a guide or a list. So if you want me to send that list to you, I can. I don't know who that is because their name's not coming up. But I can, just reach out to me, message me directly, and I can send you that list to you so you have that list. But those are just some ideas that I know have worked for other people as well. And a good book to get is called Portables. I'm not sure actually, but I can let you know. There's a book out there that has food portables. It's something like that, but it's really great for ultra marathoners to find some whole food ideas and things. And I got a lot of actually ideas from my guide from that book. So that's a resource for you. Any other questions before I go tonight about anything? Nutrition, running, carbohydrates, fueling, hydration, the Run on Planes program. Any questions about that if you're considering that or not sure about it? Uh, you're welcome, Wendy. Thanks for hopping on. Awesome. All right. We will let you guys go tonight. Thank you for joining. If you hopped on here tonight, and hopefully I will talk again to all of you very soon. Bye.